Okay, so we are back here. So yeah, I mean, I charged the computer. It was 100% when I started teaching at 9 o'clock, and then it emptied. It burned all out. I think it might mean I need to buy a new computer. This computer is old, you know. That's going to cost 3 million won, but you know, got to have a computer that works. So, okay, so sorry about that. So. I just know now from now on I also have to bring a power pack with me whenever I go anywhere, even if I'm only going to be, you know, if I'm charged at 100% with this old battery of this old computer. Okay, so let's go back then to sharing screen, and I think we're recording. And so back to the lesson plan, and you wrote your paragraph, so we will, of course, get back to your paragraphs and have our debate in class, and it'll be fun. Before we do that, I want to remind myself, is there anything in particular that I want to make sure that we covered today? And I guess we got through most of the chapter 4, and what we want to do now is, let's see, let's go back to the Cyber Campus and see what else we have selected for vote. And lots of different topics here. And so the I think maybe we should go straight to our debate. And so let me assign you into breakout rooms, or let me let you choose which breakout room you're in, because typically I bring the paper where I wrote down the your pro and con positions on the debate topic, and but I didn't bring that with me, so I will create 2 breakout rooms and let you choose the rooms you're going to join. So we name this room as pro, and we name this room as con. And so please, on the basis of the paragraph that you wrote, please join either the pro or the con group on the basis of the paragraph you submitted yesterday before class. So please join those groups. Yi Ju Young, Young Chun Shin, Gloria, and Katika Keu. So Guan Deok has already joined pro. Yi Ju Young, which group are you in, pro or con, based upon your paragraph? Okay, so join the pro group, please. Yi Ju Young, please join the pro group, where I can assign you to the pro group. What about Young Chun Shin? Which group did you belong to? Or Gloria, pro or con? Okay, you'll need to assign you to con. And okay, or you could choose. Okay. So it's saying kind of, yeah, Yang Chun Shin. Which group are you? Pro or con?
I'm con.
Okay, so I will assign you to con. And okay, and there you go. So those are the groups. So please communicate with each other as you get this out of the way, and prepare your statements for pro and con, and be prepared to respond to each other on the debate topic. And the debate topic is again here, and we go to the debate topic. To South Koreans, the concept of culture is too broad. The concept of culture is too broad, pro and con. And so who's going to speak first for pro? We'll flip a coin, and we'll also choose who's going to speak first for con. So let me flip the coin. And go back to the breakout rooms. So heads, it's Deo Kwon, and tails, it's Yi Ju Young for pro. Heads, and it is heads. So it's going to be Kwon Deok for for pro will speak first. And who's going to speak first for con? So heads, it's Kritika, and it is tails. So it's going to be Gloria or Young Chun Sheen. Heads, it's Gloria. And it's heads, so Gloria will speak first for con. And so back to the share screen. And all right, so I guess we should start. Let's go ahead with our debate. And so Kwan Deok, you will speak first. So please make your statement and make sure you're unmuted as to your position, pro or con, on the topic. And I think it might be better if you actually come up here and use the microphone. Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I have to, thank you. I've got to close all rooms. All right. And so you have a minute to prepare. And thank you for reminding me. So Dale Kwan, you want to come up to the front of the room, and you can use your smartphone or your laptop or your own thoughts as to make a position in front of the class, a statement as to why pro is the right position or is the more valid position than con. So you want to come up, or you want to, yeah, okay. So I guess we can see, I guess you have to speak in front of my, or
using microphone and use my screen.
Oh, yeah, if you can, sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so make sure everybody can see you. Okay, I can see you. Good.
For this topic, I agree with the statement that concept of culture is to growth. Okay, I think we should justify the concept of the culture, and I think it is the aggregate of human lifestyles. And we should think that as the global and transnational exchanges and the area of culture is expanding, I think. For example, every other countries enjoy Korean culture, or we are living the era of cosmopolitanism. And also, each regional areas have different cultural backgrounds. But as Jerome Penners and Hampton Turner mentioned, that our world, the population growth and movement of cheap labor and investment in third world, and I think we are living the time of period of globalization and global supply chains and immigration phenomena. And these themes are challenging to existing culture, and this tendency makes and changes and adapts the concept of culture. So I believe that the concept of culture is expanding further with globalization, which, and especially in emerging the business area. So I agree with the statement of the concept of culture is to grow and getting more broader. That's it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so let me do the applause sign there. So that's my reaction. And then and next will be Gloria. So Gloria, you want to do the same thing? Bring up your computer so you can, or maybe I can reach the microphone to you. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Can you go ahead and bring up your computer? Yeah.
Here, I have.
Oh, okay. She's going to use her smartphone. Okay. Oh no. Oh. Put back on before the computer fails again.
Where is it?
Okay. And so, oh yeah, okay. So you can stand in front of the computer. So no, let everybody see you. So go ahead, stand in front of the computer.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So I had a hard time to decide because I am not in the South Korean shoes. But culture is something precise, but also really welcoming. South Korean may seem isolated when observing from a dangerous Western-centered point of view. in Europe, for example, we made a lot of stereotypes about Asian nation because we don't know them. But when you actually live here, you can see how open-minded they can be, even if they are from the older generation. We tend to talk more in Europe in progressist and ultra-liberalism ways, while forgetting that Asia suffered from a lot of colonialism from Japan and China, sorry. So they also developed their own religion apart from the white Catholicism pressure, even if they were influenced, and now they kind of like put it in their own culture. So it's a great side of Catholicism, but it's kind of different from the white one. And Confucianism still influences the Korean culture in many ways. However, South Koreans stay inclusive. They do their best to open themselves to foreigners, but as is said in the textbook, sometimes it isn't quite enough to the context of affairs, of works. So I just loved a sentence in the book which said, transcultural effectiveness is not measured only by the degree to which you are able to grasp the opposite value. It's also measured by your competence in reconciling the dilemmas. So understanding each other is quite a good beginning, but resuming culture to this sharing experience would not be the best way to deeply explaining it. That's what I said.
I really like that. I really like that. You can stay up here.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I really like that because it brought to mind that basically we have to make sure if we're going to use the concept of culture, maybe you can develop this notion or respond. But if we're going to use the concept of culture, we can't use the concept of culture simply as a way by which to explain why something can't be done.
Yeah.
That we need to understand the concept of culture from the point of view of social interaction to achieve some objective, and understand culture from that point of view as an aspect of the environment, it's parallel, for example, to the geography or the weather, the climate, that we as human beings are socially interacting. We have a predisposition, like we talked about in the European politics class, to form in-groups. We use culture and cultural symbols to define what it means, at least ideal-typically, romantic self-images of what it means to be a good American, or a good Korean, or a good Sardinian, or a good Italian, or a good Spaniard, or a good Chinese, or a good Russian. And we have to develop this concept of culture in terms of a theory of human behavior that relates to human interaction. And I would suggest, and this isn't really mentioned so much in the Trompenaars and Nathan Turner book, but this is what I've been thinking about to try to develop these notions, that human beings have a predisposition to form in-groups. It's human nature to want to belong to a group of people, because it's easier for us to achieve our individual values, including security and safety from threats. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we were hunter-gatherers, or also to achieve our objectives today when we want status and wealth. And it's really useful to have a powerful state market economy with an effective state that can regulate and guide and develop that economy through laws, through implementing effective laws. So, but the problem is I would suggest our efforts to try to understand culture. We try to understand culture as this thing that doesn't change, but the environment always changes, and our culture evolve, and different elements of our culture emerge in the context of interaction. That culture manifests its many facets and dynamic aspects in the course of social interaction that can be cooperative or conflictual. Yeah. And so that's one way by which to, because we all know we have cultural differences, okay? But But people, I think, become frustrated with this notion of culture because it's just typically assumed to be a reason why we failed, why we couldn't do what we wanted to do. Say, well, you know, you're a Korean, I just don't understand Korean, so I'm not going to be able to, you know, we failed to achieve something, and it was intercultural differences. Oh, in other words, if we succeeded, we're not going to focus on intercultural differences because we succeeded individually and as a group. And that's, I think, what Trump and ours and Hampton Turner want to emphasize, that we should see cultural differences, at least within the organization, as a resource to achieve our objectives, because our organization exists in a global, diverse world, a globalizing environment. And so cultural differences are not just an obstacle or a test, they are a positive resource. That comes up in the book repeatedly. So you want to globalize inside your company, because if you are successful in globalizing and integrating cultural differences inside your country, your company, or your organization, and this is true because that's basically what states are. States are just vast organizations, but we give them emotional content, symbolic emotional substance, significance. But if you can integrate cultural differences inside your company, you will be mimicking what's going on in their outside world, but guiding and directing it in a way to achieve your organization's objectives in this globalizing world. So yeah, I keep coming back. I think Trump and ours has been really heavily influenced by Confucian religion and philosophy. He really likes this yin and yang notion. And he's not the first one. I mean, one of the founding theorists of modern political philosophy, Hegel, was heavily influenced. Hegel was the father of Marxism and freedom. He was heavily influenced by yin and yang thinking. We talk about thesis, and then antithesis to the thesis, and then synthesis. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. He was heavily impressed by East Asian philosophy, writing back in the 1830s. Okay, so, all right, so sorry to keep you up here.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me then go back to pro. And breakout rooms. And where's the fourth person? They disappeared. Where's the fourth person at? There was another person in pro. Huh? I don't know. Well, maybe they are. I hope they're doing okay. Let me see. Who's not in the? Iju Young. Is Iju Young there? Where's Iju Young? Okay, there. I'm gonna assign Iju Young to Iju Young. You should join pro. Okay, Iju Young, you should join pro. And let's see, who'll speak next for Khan? And heads it's Katika, and Yang Jun Shin is tails. So let me flip a coin. And it is tails. So that will be Yang Jun Shin. Where's Yang Jun Shin? Yang Jun Shin?
I'm here, sir.
Okay. So can you speak to everybody as to your con statement?
Wait a second.
Okay. And so can you all hear him on your computers? You should be able to hear him, right? On your speakers?
Mm. Korean tends to look at the concepts of culture from different perspectives. So they have a broad concept of culture. So this will be an advantage on the personal side, but it is likely to be a disadvantage on external side, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it is obstacle to communicating and receiving the concept of culture from other people, because having a broad concept of culture means that we have different perceptions of the concept. First, this means that it's difficult to directly by saying to other person that I know.
yeah,
This is because many perspectives are mixed and the direction of information is mixed. It will tire to listener. And second, when the other person conveys the concept of culture, there is a high possibility that what he or she heard and understood is different from the other's one. Not only is this thing a personal issue, but if I tell my conceptions to the others, it'll be useless because it was distorted information. So having a broad concept of culture will not advantage to us.
okay, yeah, and I think again, that highlights,
Right, sir.
no, I think that states what I was trying to say. That the notion of culture is weaponized. It's weaponized when we try to explain why we failed, why we didn't get what we want, why we were frustrated in our interaction with other people, and we start making subjective judgments of other people's culture as a result of social competition with them, in which we feel increasingly that unfortunately culture emerges as an issue often in interaction, which we come to see as what is called zero sum, that your gain is my loss, my gain is your loss. And if I increasingly see our interaction as conflictual, then I'm likely to become more aware of or stereotype what I think are the sources of my frustration in you being different from me. And that's the point made in chapter 4 that we covered last class, that typically humans tend to notice differences more than similarities. And they tend to notice differences in ways that stereotype them as bad. And they understand, and the question then becomes, why do they see the differences? And they see the differences or become more conscious of the differences or become more sensitive to differences if they become frustrated. If they're trying to get something, whether it be money or love or security from somebody else through our interaction with them, and we're not getting what we want. And we have to come up with an explanation. And if they are not American, like I'm an American, I'm likely to highlight their differences because differences are more evident between nations typically than within nations. And so that's, I think, a rephrasal of what I was trying to argue, and I think what Gloria was trying to argue, and I think we're all trying to argue, that typically culture is a notion that emerged in the course of conflictual interaction. That we might even argue that this notion of culture, I'm suspecting that this notion of culture is a modern concept that emerged during the time of empire building in the modern period. when the Europeans and later the Japanese started expanding their empires, anthropology emerged to try to understand and for purposes of glorifying or understanding the nature of the British Empire, for example. So I attended a Zoom conference last week where the presenter, a professor in India, said that the first systematic study of language dialects in India was done in the 19th century by a British linguist. And that person's study is still the foundational study for understanding linguistic differences in India, which was the biggest, most important, richest part of the British Empire. And I think these notions of culture have been influenced by this tendency for the powerful to try to understand and more effectively understand the challenges that they have had in trying to control other people that are within their empire or that they want to make part of their empire. So we talk about cultural differences, it's somehow connected with, it might well be connected with imperialism. And so, because when we talk about culture, we start talking about judging cultures often. And Trompenars and Hampton Turner, they really emphasize in that book, don't judge other cultures. You have to work with them. You will not overcome, I will not overcome cultural differences by issuing orders. I have to accommodate them and I have to work with them and view them not only as an issue, but as a resource. And as I say this is a challenge because at the same time, you have to come up with a way by which to evaluate the performance of people. You know, at some point you have to decide, you have to come up with a way to evaluate whether or not somebody should be promoted, whether or not somebody should be fired. And that means you have to make a judgment if you are the manager about the performance of people, even if they are coming from a different cultural background. I think what Trompenars and Hampton Turner would say, those kind of decisions, they have to be made nationally. They should not be made internationally. They should not be made by corporate headquarters in another country. That those kinds of decisions should be done within the national cultural environment where that organization is working. That should be the primary arena or environment for making those kinds of decisions. But all right, so let's go on here and to breakout rooms, and then we have Kritika Keu. Where's Kritika Keu?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you turn on your video, Kritika? Again, you're one of the I assume one of the non-Korean students. Can you introduce
Yes.
yourself? Where are you from?
I'm from Cambodia.
Cambodia. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think you're my first Cambodian student. Well, no, I had a French student from France, but his family background was Cambodian. So I think he spoke Cambodian, but he was from a French university. Which university are you coming from?
I'm from a French university too. Yeah.
Oh, which one?
Catholic University of Lyon.
I wonder if that was the same university from which that Cambodian boy student was from. And it was really great because he was here when Francois Hollande, was president of France, came to South Korea, and he met him and he got a selfie, a photo with him. So I have to look up his name. But okay, so Gloria, you also wrote a con statement. Can you
Yes.
explain why you voted con or chose con on your paragraph? Can you can read your paragraph or develop it further or respond to the others in the group?
Okay. I think because South Korea is like a relatively homogenous country where people share similar values and norms, it's like So for South Koreans, they don't think that their culture is a broad concept, because they typically come to the same conclusion, or they have a mutual understanding when they're interacting with one another. But I think for when they're looking at another culture, like you said, like people are more likely to notice the differences. So when comparing their culture to another culture, for example, an American culture, like it's easier for them to see the nuances between their two cultures. So they think it's more broad, but within the same country, within the same culture, I think they don't think their culture is a broad concept to conceptualize.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This you're bringing to mind again these emotional notions asides of culture, that so often when we talk about culture and cultural differences, emotions and emerge in considering them, and that's a theme in the book, that when a group of people who come from a different culture are expected to act in ways that violate their basic ethical moral edifice about right and wrong behavior. What's the right way to treat people and the acceptable way to treat people? What's the unacceptable way to treat people? We're talking about emotion. And so, being an effective manager, it is really difficult because, I mean, as I told you, people are very sensitive to their careers. Their career is so important for people, for our identity as human beings, for you and me. And if some people working in an organization believe that the manager or the boss is disrespectful or crude or rude to them because of cultural differences, that is a disaster. That is a disaster. And it's so easy to make that mistake, and it's so difficult to correct that mistake once your nervous staff who are concerned about their careers, about their status, they have their dreams and ambitions, they correctly or incorrectly believe that the boss, the manager, does not like them because they are of a different culture. That can easily emerge if you make mistakes, and trying to correct it or fix it is extremely difficult, because people tend to assume the worst when they do not know somebody very well, like a new boss or a new manager. So, and that's this notion of emotion, I think, from what you're saying, Kritika, has to be included in this notion or discussion of the role of culture in an organization. And we have one more person who I don't believe has spoken yet, and so I will ask her to speak. You are, what is your name? Lee Ju-yeon. Lee Ju-yeon, could you please tell me, did you vote right, pro or con? Okay, so can you come on up here, and because your name is not, you're not here in the pro group, so you can put the computer there and speak here, and as to your pro statement, and
I agree with this topic, that the concept of culture is too broad. Culture varies widely depending on the situation of the times or the society, the ethnicity, and class that make up the culture. And in some way, but in some cases, each individual has a different culture. In other words, everything within a person's influence becomes a culture. One person does not belong to only one culture, but lives with various cultures depending on the group to which the person belongs. Culture includes all the phenomenal things that are shown and mental things such as thoughts and ideologies. So in a way, culture is a large range of human life and history itself. Trumpers also said that it is difficult to answer the question when asked what was not included in the concept of culture. So therefore, because there are various people and societies in the world, the scope of culture is too wide to simply define the concept of culture, because the culture in a visible part and culture in the ideological and ideological parts appear in various ways. So it indicates also that we need to respect others, not being judgmental.
Okay, so just to conclude, and because I think you probably all have other things you must do at 12 o'clock, so yeah, we throw around this notion of culture all the time. We talk about culture, we even talk about organizational cultures. So what do we mean? Typically culture, I think what Trump and Turner is describing in their book, they're focusing upon culture that we learned from the time we were born, when we were socialized, from the time we are newly born. That's what our caregivers, our family provide to us. It's intergenerational. But then we also talk about organizational culture, the Korean military culture, Samsung's culture. And we throw around the term all the time, which makes it even more difficult to comprehend and understand what it means. So, okay, I think we have to stop there because there might be another class coming in, I don't know. And people might have other things to do. But let me then go back to the share screen and ask you to vote on whether or not you think it's anonymous. Oh no, it's identified. Sorry, it's identified. I didn't set it up that right. How you vote on this question. Do you believe the concept of culture is too broad? And vote pro or con, please. Huh? Oh, the voting closed. Let me modify that. Thank you for, I forgot which time the class starts here. And goes to 12. Okay, so save. And let me see if I can maybe make this anonymous. And anonymous, I don't think I can, it won't let me. But okay, so it doesn't matter. So please vote pro or con, whether or not you think the concept of culture is too broad. So a couple more people can vote. And okay, so that's it for today. And I'm sure in the future we'll get these technical issues resolved. So that's it for today. Thank you for bearing with me. Bye.